Bitcoin crashed. Bitcoin is back. Bitcoin saw record inflows ever last week as over $2.6 billion flowed into Bitcoin. What was the second asset that got the most amount of money? We're going to go over that. Also, CPI data is in. Inflation is back on the rise. What is the Fed going to do, and how is that going to affect Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency markets? We have an update on Ethereum. The Denkun upgrade goes live tomorrow. We're going to cover that in detail. Also, probably not going to get an ETF, Robin. So, what will that mean for Ethereum if ETH does not get its ETF this year? And we also have Rate My Portfolio. This one was a pretty big degen portfolio. What are our thoughts? Can they get a 20x? We also have Magic Into Money joining us to break down the charts. With that being said, let's get right into it.
Hola! It's your boy, Big Rob, back in the house. Welcome to Cincinnati Crypto. Man, oh man, it's been a little volatile morning. Both in the bathroom here at Cincinnati Crypto. Also,
That was
on
you.
the charts. Yeah, man. I feel like the exchanges are just playing with people, right?
I don't know.
Liquidating. That's all that was this morning, right? If you have just tuned into the show and you're like, what are y'all talking about? Well, this morning, Bitcoin dropped down to, did it hit 68? Or did it just go to 69?
It hit 68.
Hit 68. So down to $68,000. Cleared out a bunch of long positions, and then, well, we back up to 71. So very interesting.
It's funny. We kind of saw the same. If I go to the daily chart, we kind of saw the same thing last week, right, Rob? We saw a big Monday candle, and then that massive $10,000 candle that got scooped up by this fair value gap on the Lux Algo price action concepts. Kind of saw the same thing, but to a less degree, so to say, right? So we had a smaller candle and also a smaller down. Now, of course, this candle is yet to close. Still have about 6 hours to go. But if we zoom out to the 4 hour, you can see on the 4 hour, our fair value gap got filled again. And well, guess what? This is where I entered a long position in on Bitcoin. So you look at the volume, right? You take a look, well, where the market's at. You see the hyperwave is currently trading above money flow, which is good. And again, these fair value gaps typically get gobbled up. And so I entered into a BTC trade, I believe at 68.9 or 69K even. I am currently in the green. And this also, if this candle closes just the way it looks now, this would be what's called a hammer. And so typically when you see these at the bottom of a downtrend, although it being a very minute downtrend, this typically tells us that we got a reversal coming. Can we flip this entire candle green? Potentially, that means we'd have to get back over $71,783. Is it possible? Yes. Also, what we saw here on the price action concepts is a massive amount of buying happening at this order block between 68.2 and 68.5. And last time we dipped down below there, we saw a massive liquidity grab as outlined here on this candle. And you can see here almost 3x the amount of buying versus selling. And so these are all tools you guys can use to figure out, especially on lower time frames, hey, markets are volatile. Some are scared, but traders love volatility because you can make a lot of money. You can also lose a lot of money, so always be careful. And so, guys, we show these indicators on the show all the time. Highly, highly recommended. We have a few of our members who use Lux Algo. This thing is top notch, the best in the industry. So definitely would recommend using these to your advantage, as I have, and it's helping me make some money. So, and then as far as the title of today's show is Record Inflows. Okay, so take a look here, right? And I'll kind of read. And by the way, this gentleman here, James Butterfield, he's been on our show. He'll be on our show again on Thursday. Excited to have him back to break down how exactly things are going with ETF. And also Grayscale is launching another Bitcoin ETF with lower fees. What the hell are they doing? We're going to get James to break that down for us. But record $2.7 billion in inflow, Robin. Look at that volume. Look at that volume. I mean, look over the last 4 or 5 weeks, right? just massive amounts of volume. We cover this on the show every day, but you take a look at BTC, 2.6 billion out of the 2.7 flowed into Bitcoin. But look at number 2, Robin, Solana. Ethereum saw outflows last week. Solana saw 23.6 million in inflows. They have the next altcoin by like 10x, right? Take a look at something like Polkadot, 2.7 million, right? So does this say more about Bitcoin, or I guess more about Solana? And then what are your thoughts on this? And is this really sustainable, right? Or at some point, it's got to slow down, right?
What are you more bullish on, Solana or Ethereum? Right, moving into this just from here forward. I'm just curious.
That's a tough question.
I mean, even from a price, a community, a future development, because the thing is we're not looking at a Solana that is $30, $50. I'm not saying that it's
almost at all-time high.
Yeah, I'm not saying that it's hit the top of where it's going to be this bull market, but I don't know if it's going to outperform Ethereum, and whether or not it gets the ETF. The ETF I thought was going to bring in, or the ETF, if it's approved, will bring a massive amount of liquidity into.
Got news on that, Robin?
Yeah. Now, there hasn't been any new news opposing the ETF. Now we can get into the details of it later. There hasn't been anything that the SEC hasn't come out and said, "Hey, we're not looking to approve it, and here's why."
But they also have not said anything, Robin,
exactly.
Which a lot of the analysts are taking as a negative.
Yeah, because
in comparison to what
at this point in the timeline where the deadline is approaching, when we looked at Bitcoin, there was a lot of meetings going on with the SEC and the ETF providers, and there were more discussions on how's this rollout going to look. Remember, we were like just 2 weeks before the ETF went live, you had the cash in kind, or I'm not.
It was in kind.
In kind, and so there was a lot of
cash. Sorry, cash creates.
Yeah, cash create. I'm not familiar with how the inner workings of the ETF works, but
would you like me to explain it to you?
No, not right now.
Trying to be funny.
But the thing is that there was a lot of communication between the SEC in how to roll this thing out and the ETF provider. And what we're not seeing right now at that same time, a point in time of the application with the deadline fast approaching, is that there hasn't really been any discussion with the SEC. And so
zero.
You can sit here and say, well, listen, why do we need to have a discussion? There's already a blueprint
doing good, man.
Here in front of us. We know exactly how to roll out an ETF. Why do we need to sit down and discuss how to do it? So I still think this ETF is more likely to be passed than unlikely.
So your thesis, Robin, your thesis is
this is what he says.
You should not worry that we haven't had any conversation from the SEC because they've done it before, and well, they don't really need to.
You want to just tilt your
they got the blueprint.
A bit down.
I don't buy that.
So you're gonna
look
just because
Bitcoin ETF launched. This is how it launched. What more is there to discuss? ETF for Ethereum coming out,
but nothing like zero communication.
I can zoom you in. It's okay. I got you.
Are you surprised?
You're making.
Are you surprised that
you're making a valid point? I just don't buy it.
Okay.
Me personally.
Second of all, so I think that addresses the situation of why there's been no communication. And so I think they're just like, well, you need to, there will need to be communication. So if there's zero communication, I would say a week out, 2 weeks out, then at that point,
all right,
time for another discussion, right?
All right. Man.
But I still think we're far enough out that.
Rocco, your mic is on, by the way.
Oh.
Rocco, the onboarding as our captain.
Okay, we're talking.
Hey, at least you got to hear what they're talking about.
At least I was.
Okay, so y'all probably didn't even understand.
You don't want me on a hot mic. That would be bad news. Look, Rob's pretty much saying, look, there's no discussion because the blueprint's already out there. I'm not buying it. I'm curious to know what the chat thinks. Are you guys with Robin on this one? And it's not a negative sign that the SEC is not talking to these ETH issuers because they've already approved the Bitcoin ETF. Put a 1 if you're with Robin, it's not a concern. Put a 2 if you're with me and you're like, dude, you got to have some conversation here. This is bad news. Put a 2.
Also, so that addresses the situation. Hey, they've done it once before. Why redraw it up? Second of all, I just want to say, you think they're going to deny BlackRock's application? I mean, that's the one I can't. That's the one I can't just put to bed.
Could they put the second L ever in their L column?
So for me, I just look at it this way. It's going to get passed because BlackRock wants it passed. Now, with that said, at this point, anytime there's a roadblock, I'm like, all right, well, they're going to pass it because BlackRock. So why are we at this point, right? So that's the way I kind of conceptualize this. BlackRock's going to get it passed. And so why haven't they communicated? Well, they haven't communicated because they already know what to do.
Okay.
You going against BlackRock? You betting against them?
I don't want to go against BlackRock.
I'm just saying, if you had to, if we had a little, if you had a sports book down here and, or, you could go put some odds in, you got a 50-50 odds, pass approve. Where are you going to put your money at? You going to bet on approval or denial on this ETF or ETH?
I'm 50-50, dude.
You got to pick one, bro. That's the whole thing.
I can't.
No, you got money. You got to do it. You got to go. Pick a side, bro.
I can't.
Come on.
I can't.
Stop.
Okay, you pick a side. Yes?
I already told you I think it's going to get a yes. I don't think I if they deny BlackRock, if the SEC pulls up, could you imagine Gary Gensler getting out of a car? They're like, what up, Larry Fink? CEO of BlackRock. And being like, yeah, we're going to have to deny you today. What do you think Larry Fink going to do? He'd be like, I don't want to do that, bro. We're gonna rain fire and brimstone on that whole department, bro.
Okay. I don't know. I'm 50-50, man. It's hard. I can't. What I'm not 50-50 on is our guest, which is none other than Magic Internet Money. He joins us every Tuesday to break down the charts and the price action. Magic, what's up, brother? How you doing?
Oh man, living the dream. Loving this price action. It's awesome.
Yeah, I was just saying a lot of volatility, man. So I was saying before, right when we came on, I was looking at that Bitcoin chart. That thing was dropping and then scooped some up. Well, got into a long trade around 68.9K. It's recovered quite nicely. It's at almost 71, but tons of volatility in the market. What are you seeing on Bitcoin? Maybe on the lower time frames, if that's what you're trading,
Sure.
or what are you kind of seeing overall in the structure?
We're actually at a really big high time frame level. I've had this marked out since 2020, so we'll talk a little bit about both. But the low time frames where you got in is a good spot. If we were to go to the charts and just take a peek, this was the level I've been looking for a couple years now. We can talk about that later. I've also posted it on Twitter, so people can go there as well if they want to review it. But we've been talking about it for a few weeks, looking for a break above the all-time high into this 73,000, about 200 zone. You built up a lot of positions on both sides here. So the open interest was actually going up quite a bit in this little chop, if you want to call it. Didn't really have a good high here. So what you did know is that you had a lot of longs and a lot of shorts that were entering the market. So you knew that more than likely you were going to flush both sides. It was just a question of, were you going to get the long first? Like, were we going to come down here and get a long off some single prints? We'll talk about that in a second. Or were we going to get the move up and then the short, which was the trade that I took. So I did take this trade, took it at the first low here, and then you are now at the, let's switch over here. This is your previous week information, right? So this is the range from last week. It's already closed. There's your new week. There's your new pivot. There's your weekly open. So what you've done is you've come and back tested the value area high of the prior week's session. So not a bad spot to really be looking to. If you were to also look at this in terms of previous week deviations off of volume weighted average price, something that I do, you've also run right into the first standard deviation, meaning that, if you were to lose this level, one would expect to probably rotate to the zero mark and or the weekly pivot, which does come in right there, which is just the average of price. Those generally hit at anywhere from 70 to 80% hit rate. Just depending on how far back you go and what kind of price action you're getting in terms of the trend. So It's always on my radar when we have one, especially early on in the week. But for right now, you are at a good bounce zone. To really do anything with this, you're probably going to have to be back above like this 72.5 range, just kind of clearing these highs, and then you can start pushing. To me, realistically, anything above 73 in terms of like a high time frame push actually kind of puts me in the camp of like 80 to 81,000 at that point. These are levels, again, that have been marked out for years. So when you're trading an all-time high breakout, it's really beneficial to spend some time, do the Fibonacci work, do the volume work, and figure out exactly where you want to mark out levels to trade off of and where inflection points are going to be. So 73 is pretty important. The only other thing I could throw up there for you guys is you're protecting that weekly open and that previous week high right here on the bounce. So what that means for you as a trader is when you're looking at this, you're looking at momentum of like weekly candles in this instance, right? You really don't want to see yourself like coming back below the previous week open specifically, because imagine this candle is just one big wick and then it's a red candle down. It's kind of like a reversal type thing. Now, they don't always end up that way. Obviously, we had just weeks of sideways here. So it could imply a range, but sometimes they can also imply like, bigger drawdowns. So for right now, the dip's really not that bad. I mean, we get excited about small dips now, right? It's kind of crazy. We're definitely in a bull market. It's like when the dips are happening, we're like, oh yeah, we called this really big pullback, but in reality, it's like 6%.
The world's ending.
It's been fun to trade. Yeah, I know. It's fun to trade, but I think we talked about this a few weeks ago. We said, in terms of like an opposing trade to the trend, especially something this strong, you probably just want to take profits early. You can leave some to ride if you want to, but don't marry the position. We both know the winning position right now is with the trend. And it is up. It's just a question of, can I take some low risk trades in between, because that's what we do. In terms of the high time frames, do you mind if I just pop into that real quick and I'll blow through that real quick for you?
Yeah, please.
So let me get rid of this. I was messing around with some halving data.
What is that?
Yeah, don't worry about that.
Hold on, what was that?
So I do
never
things with
seen
Fibonacci rings based on so it's a standard deviation model essentially. You can use tools effectively by essentially just using the standard deviation of volume as your anchor points rather than just choosing random points on the chart. And it usually gives you pretty good highs and lows, and it gives you like a way to standard it. This one's actually not to a specific time frame; it's to the halving. That's a folder that I'm working on. There's really not anything in there that's concrete that I would trade off of, but it's fun to tinker with. You're always tinkering. So in terms of where you're at on the chart, you do have to go back to the last cycle. And I think actually Bitstamp is the one that I generally use. That's the one I've always kind of used for this. I'm going to, there we go. Perfect. Bitstamp on the weekly chart. And that's how I like to do things in terms of time. Okay. So we obviously had this old range. That was our bull market, and we're into where we are now. So if you looked at where the last bull market ended, we actually covered this the very first time I came on your guys' show. You are looking at a time basis where you had the exact 1-to-1 in time. So this is your 1-to-1 right here. Get rid of the 0.5.
So real quick, I feel like you have remembered every single trade you've put in when you're on our show, because you always do that, man. You write them down, or you just got it, or are they just like in your memory? Because they'll be like, what, Rob called that one, this one. You got that photographic memory?
That's kind of something that, like, when I initially kind of got popular on YouTube back in 2020, it was because I could remember a lot of things. My dad calls it weaponized autism. So however you want to look at that,
I can't even remember. I can't even remember what I had for breakfast yesterday.
I like to call it 2020 memory. So there you go.
Yeah. But so we have a nice 1-to-1 in time. So that's kind of the first confluence that you're looking for here. Now you're going to take that trend-based Fibonacci tool one more time. And the only reason we're doing that is we want to look at the measurement of the length from that bull market, and we want to measure it off of the low, right? You can see our 1-to-1's way up there at 402,000. But if you start looking to other things like the gold pocket, you'll notice that that's exactly what we ran into. You also ran into your golden ratio, and the 1.618 is very, very important in terms of, time and price. So it's always something you need to be aware of. So now you've got a really nice 1.618 and gold pocket on the trend in terms of like a logarithmic scale confluence. And then you even had like a negative fib. Not too many people use negative fibs, but they certainly can be useful. So you're pulling from left to right. And instead of looking for, retracements down, we're looking to take negatives to the upside. And I don't remember if this was negative 236. right here. So you had a negative fib here as well. So you had a lot of Fibonacci confluence for this box. Top of the box is about 75,527. And we had come up with 73,244 off some local pulls here. And just a really, really nice confluence of why this was going to be the all-time high. This is why I was on about this was the all-time high in the prior cycle and that this will be resistance coming up. And we're on our third touch of it. So if we break above 73, to me, I'm not looking to these numbers up here. I would like to do something a little more local and probably get out of log scale for that for now until things get kind of out of hand is what I call it. But you've got the exact same type of setup where you could just say, okay, well, what does it look like in terms of if I took the low to my all-time high to my new low and I took that as a trending Fibonacci extension, what would the one-to-one move look like? What would a 100% move like that look? It would look about $81,000. If you were to throw it into log scale, that number gets really, 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 really crazy. And the reason it does is because it's based on percentage and it's not based on like a linear one-to-one move. So in this case, you could still use this, but you'd want to, probably again, look for something like the 618 and the 65. And that's where you start to find this area right here, that confluence of what levels should I have on my chart above me? Should I really clutter it up? Not really. We have 73,000, which we know is huge resistance from the prior cycle. After that, we're going to 81,000, give or take a few dollars. If we can clear 81, we're realistically targeting about 100 grand, and maybe even as high as like 116. So, that's how you step it up and go, okay, when should I be trading? When should I be looking for pivots in the market? Just mark out your really high time frame, important pivotal levels, and then trade them when they occur, which, we had to wait for this one for a few weeks, but it was worth it because it's 6% trade to the downside. So in terms of upside being jeopardized for like a bigger pullback, where do we get worried? For me, I think you got to go to the higher timeframes for that. So, we've done our low time frame work. We know why you took the long. There's really good confluence where you got in at that weekly open, previous week highs there. There's standard deviation from the prior week session as well as there in terms of volume weighted average price. Now you can take a look at your monthly chart and you can just say we are getting a change of behavior above $62,000. So realistically, Bitcoin could dip all the way to $62,000 just from a standard charting perspective. And that would be okay as long as you didn't close below it. So what you'll notice is you've not closed above 62 here, you closed beneath here, you closed beneath here, and right here, you're actually beneath it again. Now you're above the level and you want to see it breaking through this, give you that change of behavior and push higher. So if the month, which is a couple weeks, in, still has a few weeks to go, closed below $62,000, I wouldn't be like bearish and like, oh man, the bull market's over. Everybody's right. We're going to 3K. I just think you kind of have to prepare yourself for, where do I want to realistically get it at? And those numbers, they're not relevant to price right now, but I think, anywhere around 53 to 54,000 is actually where I'd be looking at in that situation. It's just that situation's again, not relevant because we're realistically probably going to break 73,000 at some point here. It was just a good opportunity to trade it initially, just like the opportunity to trade this all-time high right here was a very good opportunity initially as well, but you had to understand that more than likely after the pullback, you were going to push back through it. So, and you're back testing it right now. It's like the amount of longs that have entered right here are pretty crazy. So for anyone that, does like open interest work or just wants to know about like people just getting liquidated, people are forced out of positions when they're liquidated, meaning that there's longs in here. A lot of them have been longing. And they're very comfortable in their positions right now. It's the way to put it. They're comfortable because they're in profit. So when does the market change that? Well, if we start breaking below 69 and then that magical number of $62,000, we'll put that back on the chart for just a second. Then you have, I wouldn't say problems, but the dynamics of the market changes below this level, right? You can see that squared right away now on the daily chart. So all the high time frame work we just did is now translating to the low time frames. The daily is not the low time frame, but it's not a high time frame either. So, but if you start losing 62, all these longs that have been entering here, the millions and millions of longs are now underwater, meaning that if they don't have stop losses, they could be liquidated, or maybe they just start getting out of their positions because, people don't like to lose money. It's not something that we're really programmed to enjoy, but they start selling. So you have two factors then. Do we have shorts actually entering the market in that scenario? And then we have people being forced out of positions, both psychologically and from a math standpoint, like there's being liquidated. And that's how you get like big drops. But until that happens, the trend is fine. For immediate upside.
Friend is your friend, right?
Yeah, and it may range here for a little bit, but as long as you're above 62 at the end of the month here, or at least not getting below it and like giving it up on like a meaningful time scale in between, like daily, weekly, you're good to go. So sorry for the rant, but it's just one of those things where that's how you're trading the all-time high breakout right now, in my opinion, and doing it safely.
Good stuff, man. It's good stuff. Just real quick, Magic, what are your thoughts on hearing some people say 3K Bitcoin?
Never.
Okay. At least I'm
probably
happy.
Never. You can wish in one hand, and I guess as the snake goes poop in the other, and see which one fills up faster.
That's an actual like take from somebody.
Yeah. There's people out there that believe that. There's still perma bears out there.
Like, are they in? Do they own crypto, or are they just like on the outside looking in? Like the guy that was on.
It happens.
I was going to say the guy that was on the Rogan podcast that said Bitcoin's going to go negative.
Oh yeah,
Peter Zeihan.
I'm talking people that do actual TA or claim to that are still looking for 3K. Like that's what's crazy to me. Well, what they're doing is they're looking at narratives, and they're looking at past cycles of like the stock market, and they're looking at like housing prices going way up, and they're saying, man, we're going to get a Great Depression. Like, look at these charts. They look so similar. But the dynamics of our market are completely different now. So I don't think it's fair to go off of a fractal basis in terms of that, but that's what they're basing it on. It's probably the most loosely based idea that you could possibly have. And they're just running with it. And what's crazy is as you guys know, if you're extremely bullish or extremely bearish, you somehow get a very good following. People like to gravitate towards people that kind of say off the cuff things that are extremely wild. So
like $20,000 Ethereum.
Yeah, people love hearing that, man.
But that's not that wild.
It's not as wild as 3K Bitcoin.
Yeah. Okay. Magic. What is there? Okay. Do you think we'll ever see a $20,000 Bitcoin again?
No.
You think
let's ask the chat. I'm curious where everyone else lands. If you think that Bitcoin will never cross sub 20K, put a 1 in the chat. If you think that we are in a recessionary environment, markets are pretty frothy, it's early pre-halving for the pump where we're at, maybe we retrace down, who knows, Black Swan event, put a 2 in the chat. 1,
what is
a 1, never under 20. 2, we'll go test it again.
Magic, what is your number that Bitcoin might maybe come down to, whether it's in a bear market, whether some crazy happens? Is it 30K? Is it 25K?
Probably closer to 50, maybe higher. It goes up. It goes up as the market goes up with me. So as of right now, I'd probably say 50.
It was just a month ago. We were under 50.
Looking at previous halvings and what you've got going on right now, which is really aggressive. Like I think a lot of people, a guy I went live for the first time for the public again yesterday on my channel. I come on your guys' channel and other people's channels, but I've been neglecting my own content. But a guy asked me if this is unhealthy, the market right now. And I would argue that it's extremely bullish, actually. And even though everyone thinks we need a correction, I'm not saying that's why we won't get one. What I'm saying is I think that they fail to really look at the body of work of Bitcoin. This is par for the course. Like, look at these moves up. This is, people will say unhealthy, but like this is par for the course. Even right here, you had this breakout. Look at these candles. These are weekly candles before you finally got your correction, right? Look at what we're doing. You have a very similar structure even to that breakout. Like, look at this. This is almost the exact same structure. This one's just got more aggressive higher lows. Like, and you're getting these moves and people are saying, oh, well, this has to pull back. And they said the exact same thing right here above 10K. I remember when the COVID crash happened because I was short. I closed my shorts at 5,500 because that's where the 200-week EMA was. It went all the way to, sub 4. Well, on this buy up, I closed back into Bitcoin because I trade inverse perpetual. The entire way to $10,000, people were saying, oh, we have to get a correction. We have to. Like, look at these candles. It can't sustain this. And then they said the same thing right here. They got a correction. They got a correction from 10K down to 8,800. They got a correction from 12.5 all the way down to 9,800. And then they didn't get anything until about 36K and then back to like 27, then all the way up to like the 60s, right? So this is par for the course. So when people say that, this is an unhealthy rise and this is crazy, this is my third cycle. Honestly, this is kind of what Bitcoin does. And it leaves a lot of people on the sidelines.
I'll also say that, and we do have big players that are less likely, if not at all, in a position to sell. And so, MicroStrategy, one example, they're not going to sell their Bitcoin if there's a sell-off, right? So, there's in the past Bitcoin and bull markets, and in turn, and the pullbacks, going into a bear market, where are we going to bottom out? Well, majority retail, right? You might have had some institutions. I know Grayscale has been around since I think it was 2013, but I mean they represent individuals as well. So it wasn't assets that they were owning personally. And so
one of the things
I think the
you have to
environment's a
consider,
little
though,
different. I don't just not going to have the same sell pressure because there's Wall Street institutions
theory, yeah.
and companies holding. And then now, we were covering earlier this week, we have retirement funds. Retirement fund is not going to sell their Bitcoin because the price dumps.
It's a really simple situation to me in terms of like how you should be looking at this as a long-term investor. If your timeline's more than 4 years, then you honestly, you probably don't care what the all-time high is or the next bottom is. You're going to keep DCAing, right? If you're looking at this from a time perspective, okay, so we've talked loosely about left translated cycles. I've kind of tried to plug Bob Lucas a few times on your guys' channel, mainly because he's one of the first guys that got me into macro analysis when I got into really trading back in 2018. To me he was like a voice of reason.
Magic,
really good stuff still to this day. What's
Magic, that? Only because you brought him up. I was actually I'm happy you brought him up because I was going to ask you about this. So he tweeted this.
Yeah.
Bitcoin is showing us a blow-off top 4-year cycle, not a diminishing returns type. Also showing a left translated cycle, which is a top before December. Is real if this doesn't cool off, unless we get a 6-month consolidation to build into a super cycle. What are your thoughts on this?
I agree with that quite wholeheartedly. So in terms of time that's on here, so I've been doing work in terms of like Fibonacci time on some of the time pivots that are already in place, but also for new price action. And for me, I'm actually looking out towards like August like this summer is an interesting time for me from just a perspective of trading. This one says October, but I think what we're working off of would be the X to D, believe.
And then real quick, while you're kind of going through the charts, for those of you that aren't familiar with the what's it called, the left, I'm drawing a blank here, the
translated cycle,
left translated cycle. It's just basically you're shifting the whole cycle to the left on the chart, so everything's coming a little earlier.
Everything's happening faster.
Yeah, everything. And which it makes sense right now, right? You get the bull market kicking off earlier, the top coming earlier, perhaps the sell-off or the going into the bear market earlier. And it seems to kind of make sense at this point. And so, just to give some context there.
No, it definitely makes sense. And so in terms of time, like if we do similar aspects where we measure like, what was the length of time from our last low to high? Obviously, the length of time from this low to 20K was the same length of time from 3K to 69K, which most people don't realize. It's the exact same time to the T. That's what I meant by a 1-to-1 right here. So if you were to do something similar and measure and say, okay, what would this be compared to the last cycle? Should we expect another 1-to-1? I don't think that you should, because I think that would be a little uncanny, but it does give us like a ballpark, a reference of going, okay, well, how long should this cycle potentially take if it's similar to other ones? It doesn't have to be exact. It can just kind of be in the area. If it was left translated, you start looking at this and saying, well, I can divide this up into 50%. And in May, that's the 50% mark. So that means that this cycle would have occurred at the 50% mark here. If it ended right here, it'd be half the length of time, but you may actually be very close to the length of run in a linear scale. And so if we take out log scale and we go back to linear, now you're measuring a 1-to-1 move. And if anyone has a question about what that means, I can show them very simply. So this is your 1-to-1 target right here. And this actually lines up really nicely with a regression that I use. So there's a tool that, I don't know, eventually I'll probably see other people using it, but it's a free tool on TradingView, but I've got some custom settings that I worked through and made kind of my own. Looking for this right here. So this is basically plugging the prior price action with specific like Pearson R values and deviation settings. And you can see it's very well respected. It's not perfect, but it's just meant to get the trend and where might the trend be topping out at. And if you have that 50% move that we just discussed, and we're hitting that 1-to-1 in price, to me, that's a recipe for, things get interesting at $80,000 if we hit that come May, right? If we're in May and we're hitting $80,000 at the top of this trend, could it go higher? Of course, but I'm going to be cautious, I guess. Just like I was cautious back up here because you had that 1-to-1 in time and we were hitting a major trend-based fib. So we knew that in time we had done an exact 100% move, but in a trending price action, we'd hit a 61.8% trend. So to me, I was like, okay, we have convergence of Fibonacci tools and levels. So I should be looking at this as potentially a reversal spot. And it was. And what stinks about it is I spent all this time preparing for this trade and I wasn't quick enough. So I actually had to wait until it bottomed out to give me a secondary entry here to like 52 and 47. I didn't get the short 60K because I just didn't pull the trigger like I should have. Now, when you look at it, it just dumped. Like it gave nobody an opportunity to get in on a retrace because there just wasn't one. So now I'm looking at this zone saying that's a really interesting time. And if it was a left translated cycle and everyone's expecting about 80 to 100K, give or take, that would be the time frame. Now, if it pushes beyond that and you have a normal cycle, like he just said, you have October 2025, you have Q2 and Q3 of 2025. If the cycle runs the same length of time that it normally does, it's going to go into the second half of 2025. And if it does that and it's consolidating here underneath like 100K between somewhere like he said 70 above the all-time high and $100,000, you could get that blow off cycle top and you could see some pretty crazy valuations. You could start pulling fibs just for like normal targets, but you could easily see 120, 150, maybe even $170,000 in that scenario if it spent 6 months going sideways. There were a lot of people that were in the camp that Bitcoin, the cycle was over in 2017. It was a very long cycle, it felt like. And there were some very heavy dips and then just periods of sideways action. And what I mean by that is boring price action, like massive dips to the downside to liquidate people. And then you had the runs back up that were, 40% dip. That's pretty aggressive. That's going to liquidate anyone that's using leverage pretty much. Then you've got how many weekly candles? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 weekly candles. And if you just went from here to the top of this one, it was 13%. But realistically, some of these weeks, like you'd spend a whole 7 days and the price action went 3%, compressing for that next move up. And what's it do? Same thing. Oh, cycle's over. This is a top, right? 33% decline. And then it just kind of keeps getting more aggressive because you are getting closer to a blow off at that point. But if you saw something like that, it would be quite interesting. And that's going to happen after the summer. So the sell in May, walk away may very well be real. Whether it's at 80K or even like $100,000, that could very well happen. And then people will say the cycle's over, it's topped out, and maybe it goes sideways for a long time and you get that final move and really kind of like nonstop aggressive move up like you see here and like you see here. That's what he's referencing. So awesome. Yeah, you've got to be paying attention to what's going on.
Magic, before we let you go, I just want to get your take real quick. What is your bear case scenario for a Bitcoin top the cycle, and what is your bull case scenario for a Bitcoin top the cycle?
I mean, bear case is it's topped out right now because it could always happen, but I don't think that's realistic. Bear case is left translated cycle, 80 to 100K. Bull case, I think that you're pushing the extremes of it, maybe as high as like $170,000, $200,000. Am I going to trade for that? Probably not. I don't know that I'm in the camp of going to that high. But as you guys said, this cycle is different. There are new players in the market. They have a lot of weight and a lot of money, and there's just not as much Bitcoin as there used to be. So, and there's other markets now wanting to get in on ETFs. So it's just like, what kind of dynamic are we going to have? Are we going to get the super cycle we've all been wanting, and no one was prepared for it? It's like, that's kind of how it feels. Like everybody was wanting institutional players. And last cycle, everyone said this is a cycle where institutions enter the market. And in reality, we said, oh, it's still a Ponzi. It's a scam market. And like, that's what they just hammered home until the bottom. And then, you're having this, and BlackRock's here and they're buying all the Bitcoin. Michael Saylor's not liquidated. He's still buying tons of Bitcoin. Cash App's got Bitcoin. There's big players entering the market that aren't even ETFs. So it's interesting for sure.
Like for me, I don't know. I look at where there's always been this general thesis that you're going to get diminishing returns, right? But I don't know. I mean, I look historically, and it's kind of
a very young asset.
It's ramping up, and so you look here back in 2017, prior to the impending, prior to the top in 2017. I mean, right before you had the run up here, we went from 4,000 up to 17, right? So you had at the $4,000 mark right before we hit escape velocity here. I mean, that's a 4x, right? From there. I mean, you could go back to $2,000. I mean, even then it's an 8x, but what we saw here in 2020 was crazy, right? Right before this bull market went from 10 up to 60,000.
You know why, right? Because the money printer
So you had a run of 6x here, right? And then I just look at it like we just started this thing, and we went from 25, and so if we did another 6x from where we the bull market really kicked off, because this for me, this right here, November of 2020 is when the bull market took off. And that was a solid 6x. And for me, 25,000, this is when the bull market took off. And we're a 3x into this damn thing. And I feel like we got a lot of room to run. A 5x from here, I think is, that's 125,000. And, the two things that I look at, and, I'm not as plugged into the charts as you guys are, but I just simply zoom out and look what happened before and kind of just try to estimate, on an economic climate, like what does this look like for this cycle? And well, the bull market only lasted just a little over a year. From here you go from, let's just say the end, December 2020, and it ended on June 2020, June 2022. So you had a year and a half bull market. And I don't know. I think that this cycle, we rally up to the all-time highs sooner than expected, and I think the bull market is extended. And the reason being, as what we mentioned earlier, is I just think that you have a situation where institutions aren't going to exit because the price is dumping, and not to mention that the supply is just not able to keep up with demand, and the fair value price of Bitcoin is going to escalate off of the fact that ETFs and institutions and retirement funds, soon to be nation states, are going to be.
But I want to point out too, right? There's buying and selling. Although I agree with you, the time horizons are a lot longer. You got to understand, as people get older, they typically shift their retirement portfolios from more aggressive to more conservative as they try to preserve more capital. Not to say that 10 years from now, Bitcoin could become a pretty stable asset, right? Just very slow and consistent growth instead of having these 60, 70% drawdowns. No one knows what the future is going to look like. This is still a 15-year-old asset. It's looking to revolutionize the way money is stored and money in value is moved. So anyone that tells you they know what's going to happen, they don't.
I know. Rob Stradamus knows.
Yeah, okay.
Someone
who does know a lot of things is our friend here, Magic Into Money, as he literally just put on a master clinic. If you want more magic, I would definitely recommend you jump into his Discord. We did pin that to the top of the comments section. Always a pleasure having you on, Magic. We kept you longer than we said we would today, so sorry, but we just love your stuff, man.
That's me.
No. I'm saying we love your stuff. We love when you join us. Just some great, powerful insight. I'm just like Avalanche is almost going to be it's about to be at $60. $56.48.
I remember we were eyeballing the that thing as it was dropping in the bear market. I remember you saying
it got to like $6.
I remember you saying if it gets to $5, I'm buying. And then
you laughed at me.
Oh, I didn't laugh at you.
You know what's crazy is that's the nature of the market. Is that when you guys were probably buying that, there were probably a collective number of people saying you were stupid, and what they don't understand is when you're betting against basically the value of the dollar anytime you're buying something like that, whether you believe in the project or not. Like, you got to understand all markets are going up historically, and
That's a very good
investing
point.
in the market is, it's what you want to do.
There's a lot of people that say that to us. And usually, I actually hear that more about the studio and the investments that we put in here. Like, I can't tell you how many people have
To be fair,
have
it's
said to
not
me,
the most cost efficient way.
no. You know what? You believe in something, man. You put your money where your mouth is, right? I mean, if you don't believe in something and you just go about it like, well, I mean, eventually it'll come. I don't need. You know what? I put my blood, sweat, and tears into this damn thing, and I take every fucking dollar I have, every dollar I get, I reinvest that thing into here. I don't take a dollar from this place. And we're growing this thing, we're catching traction. Haters are popping up left and right like weeds, and I'm
That's cool,
at this
though.
point, I'm so used to hearing that we don't know what the hell we're doing, and we're stupid for throwing money at this thing. It's the same damn thing I heard about with crypto in the bear market, right? Like, oh, what are you doing,
in
man?
2020, I quit my job and became a full-time trader, and I was a six-figure salesperson, like well into the six figures. So leaving the comfort of a job like that, people were just like, "What are you doing?
Oh.
That's so stupid." You met a guy online in a Discord, and he's gonna, teach you to trade. I'm like, yeah, that's pretty much it. And I was already profitable at that point, but I was telling people, I was like, I'm quitting my job, and I wasn't just quitting it. I like rage quit my job. I woke up one day in January, and I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. This is stupid. I was like,
Hey, man,
I'm gonna follow my
respect.
dreams. I got some money saved up. I can always come back to this job. You know what I mean? I can always go somewhere and work and do this job somewhere else. But you can't take that opportunity.
One of my friends, he is the chairman of Monterey Security. They are one of the largest security firms in the country. They just did the Super Bowl, and we were having a conversation about transitioning from a W-2 job to your own business. And he said the same thing. He said, you can always go back to a job. The last thing you want to do is 10 years from now, look back and say, damn, I wish I would have taken that risk. Because in life, if you don't take risks, you'll never reap the rewards that you're looking for. And it's so true, man. So true. Also, while Magic's on here, we did get a super chat from B. Frank Rock.
You know what? I'm just going to go. There's a bunch of stuff I need to do.
Wait, before you do that, I was only mentioning that because he mentioned Magic. Before we do that, Magic, we're going to let you go. We appreciate you joining us, my friend. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Always a pleasure. Guys, go join Magic's Discord. It's pinned to the top of the comment section. We love having you on, man. We appreciate your friendship. And thank you so much, man. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you.
Thank you. So 3 super chats. B. Frank Crypto loves Magic, $1.99 super chat. Crit Cat's $2 super chat says he loves Rob Stradamus. And Rob Stradamus we trust, he said, actually. And then Alex O. Crypto, $10 super chat.
Canadian.
Yes, Canadian. He says he loves seeing us win. Also, pretty good packed house today. 500 people, 223 likes. So appreciate the turnout. If you are new here, say hello so we can drop that hola back at you. I'm going to give a little shout out to some of the new people I spotted out. We got BGTT, J Daz, Sugar, we going down, JT, Bam Bam, Moonshine, Chantel, or Shantan, Crypto SML, Corey Rice, Crypto Niz, Mr. Pringle, Godcandor, Tyler on gaming, Crypto Bowhunter, Metal Gear, 2K, Zanabob. I know I spelled that one. I said that one wrong. And then BG, to all of you, Allah! Welcome to Sin City Crypto.
We tweeted this yesterday, but we are stoked to announce a new channel sponsor, and that is an up-and-coming company that is launching an absolutely amazing app, and that is Legacy Network. We talk about our assets, our portfolios, our money, but your biggest asset truly is your mental health and your brain. And what they're looking to do is connect gamify and personal development. The app is going to be launching towards the end of this month, beginning of next month. You want to be on the lookout. I got a sneak peek. It looks sick. Being able to better yourself and make money at the same time in a fun and sexy way, as Rob says. So big shout out to Legacy, their channel, or sponsor of this channel. I would recommend you guys join their Discord. The link is in the description of this video. I'm in there. Go in there, say what's up. We'll say hello. We'll talk. And so that way you can stay up to date. And we'll be bringing you more of that content and information as the app goes live. So we're super excited about that. We talked about inflows, Rob. I know you have a couple things you wanted to go over.
Yeah, just real quick, I did want to say that a couple things to spot out. And so there's some interesting metrics here. Now, on this one here, you have this is the spot Bitcoin flows in and out, right? And what we saw here, this is quite interesting. So the lower half here, the teal bar on the bottom half here represents outflows. And on the top is inflows. And so, we had the initial grayscale sell pressure here, which we, dumped the markets, but the selling subsided. Now, what we saw in the last week and change is that we saw a lot of selling.
Hold on, bro. What are you talking about, man?
Now, I don't know.
Selling has not subsided. Did you see Grayscale's numbers yesterday?
No. Did you? Have you been listening to anything I'm saying?
Yeah, you just said the selling has subsided since the beginning.
Okay, like I was saying, the selling came in hard and heavy at first with Grayscale. Then the selling had subsided. Now what we saw last week at the start of Friday of 2 weeks ago, and then kept on last week, was that the selling has accelerated back up to levels that it was at initially in the beginning of the ETF launches. And so we were enjoying nothing but accumulation here for quite a few weeks. But now we're just something to keep in the back of your mind. There are a handful of individuals that are up almost a 2x in the ETF, right? The ETF launched right at 40K. Obviously, we're not at 80,000 yet, but we're getting a little closer. So there's a lot of profit to be taken in
Talking about
the stock
GBTC
market.
or just the ETFs as a whole?
ETFs as a whole. So what I think you're seeing here is that this accumulation of Bitcoin here in the early weeks, let's just say these like $691 million worth of inflows on the first day, 500. So basically you have 2 days, $500 million. You have another day just at $1 billion of inflows just on week one. So this week right here, you have over $2 billion worth of inflows that was purchased at and around $40,000. Now we're sitting at 70,000. We're starting to see a lot of outflows going into, in these ETFs.
But Robin, it's not, the outflows are not coming from BlackRock. They're not coming from Fidelity. They're not coming from ARK, and they're not coming from Bitwise. Obviously, they're coming from Grayscale. Some of it's
not
coming
all
from
of it.
Invesco.
I think that what you're seeing is,
here's all the outflows, right? The only red you're seeing. So the first four columns
in the net, yes. Now what I'm saying is that even on that chart, I'm not saying that the outflows. Okay, so back on that chart here, the outflows do not outpace. So this is it. The inflows are still more than the outflows. So you can look at BlackRock and simply say, hey, you know what? They're still bringing in more Bitcoin than they're selling. They're not losing Bitcoin.
That's all that matters, right?
And I'm not saying
is net flow.
Yes.
Okay.
Percentage wise is what I'm telling you, is that these 3 weeks here plus this week. So basically you can say 4 weeks if you just remove this Friday candle here. So for 4 weeks straight was a massive amount of inflows with a very tiny amount of sell. So the sell pressure here is on the bottom, and this sell pressure for the most part came from Grayscale. Grayscale selling has subsided. Outflows have increased, and these outflows aren't accelerated by Grayscale. It's not like Grayscale all of a sudden is having more outflows than they were 4 weeks ago. At least not to the level that is shown here on this graph. So with that said, what I'm saying is that a few weeks ago,
you seen the numbers?
I'm going through this number. This is my first chart here. Okay, so a few weeks ago, there was nothing but inflows. Now what you're seeing is that people are taking profits. Now, I'm not saying that BlackRock is running in the negative. I'm just saying by percentages. Look how much selling was going on here. Anyways, all I'm saying is that is less. But going into, also I wanted to show you some other. This one right here represents the spot ETF volume by market share, right? So this chart shows you by color. So IBIT is how much of the volume that we see day to day is by each individual ETF. And
That's
so
over-
what I was trying to
like
explain to you
40%.
is that Grayscale's volume is shrinking. That's the green, right? And so there's less selling coming from Grayscale. So Grayscale's volume is a third of what it was in the beginning of this ETF launch. But yet the outflows, the selling of Bitcoin ETF is back to where it was in the first week. And what you're seeing is sell pressure from the original, or we're seeing selling coming down from the original, or from the 9 ETFs that are outside of Grayscale. Now,
I mean, most weeks though, Rob, you have BlackRock. BlackRock's inflow alone is offsetting Grayscale.
I'm not disputing that at all. But what I'm saying is that people are selling their Bitcoin from the ETFs. This right here, this is not Grayscale. This is not Grayscale. These candles here we saw this week, last week, and the Friday, the week prior, that is not represented by Grayscale. And I'm not saying that they're not. And maybe,
Will you hover over the last one there, Rob? The gray. What does that say? Total 370?
yeah. So you had a sell of $370 million. And that was Friday of last week.
Yeah. So Grayscale from BitMEX only shows 302.
And what I'm saying is that these weeks here, these candles here represent Grayscale in almost its entirety. And what we're seeing now is that
I'm agreeing with you, by the way.
there is more selling coming from the big guys. And these 3 weeks here, this one, and this one, which was basically the month of February, you could say, these weeks here, there was very little selling going on versus the percentage of accumulation. And now, last week, we were getting closer to like 30, 40%. And so that's all I'm saying is that the market that is ETFs is not just straight buy and hodl, just something to think about.
But okay, but
I'm not even painting a narrative here. I'm just bringing it to your attention that the ETF volume and flows have moved from we're simply buying and nobody's selling but Grayscale to now people are trading and they're taking profits off of the ETF.
Didn't we just talk about how these investors are not the ones to just buy and sell when they see 20%?
And that's why, but traders are still going to trade. If you think people on Wall Street are going to be long-term hodlers, of course, this right here, this right here is still positive in net inflows. And so the traders that we're talking about, that's represented here. So, I mean, I don't know. I just wanted to, I know today's
Very
theme.
interesting. And, as you're going over that, I'm looking at the outflows, and, you look at where Grayscale was, right? 600, 460, 582, 590, 640. Then it started subsiding. But we've been ticking back up. We saw $98 million in outflows. This is on February 29th. And it's been over 300 million almost every day with the exception of one, March 6th, from Grayscale. And the funny thing is they're launching another Bitcoin ETF with the ticker BTC with lower fees. Now, I'm no ETF expert. I understand them. I could explain them to you. But I'm not an in-depth expert like some of these other people are from Bloomberg or Financial Times. So I'm curious to get James Butterfield's take on Thursday. But either way, like Rob mentioned, you look at the net flow, 505 million green, 223 green, 472, 332, 648. We've only had 2 days in the history of the ETF. Well, I lied. 2 days since, let's call it January 25th, where we've seen net outflows of the ETF. Now, we talked about, hey, when will this thing subside? Obviously, this is not something that's going to go up forever. But it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. All the ETFs combined now hold between 4 and 5% of all the Bitcoin that is currently in circulation. What will that number grow to? Can it grow to 10%, 15%, more? Who knows? Is that good or bad? I guess we'll just have to wait and see. And then I do want to share this. So we briefly talked about this yesterday. So Van Eck, remember I said Van Eck is dropping their fee to 0, and look at their volume. Look at that volume, Robin.
Jeez.
You literally have multi-trillion-dollar corporations that are fighting each other to have the lowest fees because this is what happens. You also have this from James Safer. We now have 5 U.S. ETFs over $2 billion in assets, with Bitwise joining the club. Out of approximately 3,500 total ETFs, there are only 445 with over $2 billion. And the Bitcoin ETF in 2 months has 5 of those. Going a step further, only 157 have more than 10 billion. Grayscale and IBIT are there. Fidelity is getting very close. So anyone that's telling you the ETFs were a failure, well, they're probably a failure. All right, let's move on to our next segment, Rate My Portfolio, which is brought to you by Decrypted.tax. We know tax season is around the corner, and well, we want to pay as least amount of money to Uncle Sam as humanly possible. How do you do that? You find a really good tax account, someone who knows crypto, who knows how to write down, who knows how to take your transaction or your network fees, your gas fees, and write those off and bring your tax liability down. We recommend you use Decrypted.tax. Use the link in the description, set up a free consultation, get all the answers you could possibly have answered. So big shout out to them. And with that being said, this is an interesting one, Robin. You know, we always talk about 10x, probably not, man. I don't know. This one, can it have 20x? Let's take a look.
20x, huh?
Is an $80,000 portfolio.
I went full DGen,
Bro, their goal is a 20x. Look at this portfolio, okay? $80,000. Number one, SHIB, with over a third of their portfolio.
Is this our friend Tess? we got a guy named
No,
Tess.
he's got near protocol.
He went all in on meme coins.
He went
bro.
full DJ, man.
He went,
So SHIB,
what's he normally say? He's like,
but I said, Dodge to the moon.
Doge on Mars.
Dogelon Floki. Okay. So SHIB, 35.5%. Near Protocol, 12.6%. Hex, 9.2%. Gala, 9.2%. Alluvium, 8.9%. ETH, 8.3%. Arweave, 5.5%. And others in this order include Doge, Floki, and Bonk. Just absolutely. I mean, you got four meme coins. We can call Hex a meme coin. You got 5 meme coins. Robin, is a 20x possible? So just to give you perspective, Robin, a 20x from SHIB would put it at a $400 billion market cap. A 20x for Dogecoin would put it at, where's Dogecoin at right now? 20x for Doge would put it at a $460 billion market cap. A 20x from Alluvium, right? Alluvium would put it at, let's look at where Alluvium's price is right now. Alluvium is I think it's over, 135. So 20x from Alluvium would put it at roughly $10 billion in market cap. So not too far off, right? If they're the leading game, yada, yada, yada. So what are your thoughts on this portfolio? Give it a rating. And what are some changes you would make for this man to get his 20x?
All right. Let's see. I got an idea. Okay.
What's your idea?
All right. You want to get a 20x. And the thing is you're too late in a bull market cycle to get a 20x, in my opinion. Now, I'm not saying it's not possible, but to do a portfolio 20x, you gotta have a few. You gotta have a lot of big.
So you're saying this is not degen enough?
Yeah. I mean, what's your biggest degen play? I mean, SHIB's not gonna 20x.
Loki.
Loki's not gonna 20x.
Bonk? You don't think Bonk can get to 40 billion?
It's not strong enough it's on the others category at the 8%. It's not gonna single-handedly raise this portfolio.
Okay, I'm asking this and I'm kind of joking, but I'm not. Hex? Is this the best possible 20x in this portfolio?
I
kind
think
of is,
so. Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think if you had Gala and Hex in larger
Oh,
proportion,
Gala's a good 20x.
I would that makes more sense. I mean, scrap the near, scrap the ETH, scrap. I
You
mean,
don't think near can 20?
I mean, you're just basically swinging for the fences here, man. Your 20x is crazy, bro. It's absolutely crazy. A good spot to try to find a 20x. You have I don't know this right here. Here in Vegas, we have
So
a
stupid.
roulette table. So
you got to bet a
if
number to get that 30.
If you get a number, it's a 36x, right?
Mm.
So you have 36 numbers. So if you account for the 0 and the double 0, you get a 36x if you land a number. But that's just kind of crazy, right? So if you did the 1 through 12, you're still you're getting better returns, a little safer play. But I don't know, man. And maybe go 2 numbers. If you pick 2 and 5,
Okay.
you split it, right? You put the chips in between 2 and
this
5.
Is a serious question. This is a serious question. Now, while we might say 20x, you're being greedy. We know there's people like that. If you were looking for a 20x, Robin, are you going more diversified, or are you picking maybe 2 or 3 that are around, let's call it, $250 to $1 billion market?
You're not
$250 million.
at this point in the market. You can't pick a top 20 project. We're just gonna say that right now. If we were back when Bitcoin was at 20K, sure, absolutely, why not? You know what I mean? But right now, where we're at, you're not gonna hit it, man. It's if we were talking, say, 1 year ago, Bitcoin's at $18,000. Sure, you know what? 20K, I agree. Right now, Bitcoin crossed all-time high this week. Like, you're not going to get 20Ks on a portfolio at $80,000. Not a diverse portfolio with 10 plus token holdings. Not going to happen. You're too late, bro. And now, with that said, there still are 20Xs out there.
Yes.
You just got to go way further down the risk curve.
How further down, Robin?
Outside the top 50, we can start there.
Okay. So at number 50, you have Arbitrum at a 2.5 billion. Can this thing get to 50 billion? I think so, right? Arbitrum, if they're one of the, let's say they're top 2, layer 2 on ETH. ETH is at $1 trillion market cap.
I wouldn't pick that one, but I mean,
no, I'm just saying, you said 50, so here's number 50.
I mean, I like Algorand could make some
Same.
moves. Say Phantom could get back into the fray. Fetch AI, we're a big fan of that.
20X
Beam, Gala, I mean, like
I think Gala's probably your best 20x play.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, man, it's like like here's the thing, like grab Bonker, sell your SHIB and go Bonker.
He does have Bonk, Robin.
I know, but I'm saying in large
Add more.
proportion, your giant chunk is SHIB, and I'm not discounting SHIB. I think SHIB could probably 5x from where it is now. I mean,
You think SHIB's going to get to $100 billion?
SHIB is at
18.8. Call it 20 billion.
Yeah, I mean, where was his previous all-time high? Previous all-time high on price was 4 zeros and a 7. We're at 4 zeros and a 3. So
Not too far off.
yeah, I mean,
We're 2x away.
2x from all-time highs, and then so a 5x, I think. Now, I said I wouldn't be surprised if SHIB 5x's, right? Now, I don't know if it can. But then again, I don't doubt anything that happens in this damn SHIB community, man, to be honest with you. But realistically thinking, I think 5x is a pretty bullish number. 20x out of SHIB, I think is a little that's a little stretch, right?
Yeah.
At least for its market size. I mean, it's already. I mean, Shiba Inu's already, man. I mean, look at this chart, bro. It's already made some moves, bro. It's like, look at this thing. It's 4x'd already, man. $1,000 would net you 4,000. So, at this point, it's already 4x'd. We just crossed all-time highs. Can it 20x from where it is now? Nah. Could I be wrong? Sure, but I just 20x is up.
So what number do you give this portfolio?
2.5.
Yeah. I'm at like a 3.
But I like the tenacity. I like, you know what I mean? Like, don't get upset at what we're saying. You know what? There's been plenty of people that were like, "What the hell are you doing with that money? Like, why are you putting money in Decentraland? What is that? A VR? What? 2019. So at the end of the day, like, you might know more than we do. You might hit it out of the park. My opinion, though,
I think
you're gonna miss the mark.
I think Soft Shell put it perfectly. Too safe degen plays. They're degen plays, but they're too safe. You got to go. Robert Downey said, "You never go full. You got to go full degen here, right?"
Gary Guns in the chat put a -1 for Robin's barber. I see you over there, Gary.
I'm at a 3.
Gary ain't got no hair, man. Gary ain't got no hair. So
you got SHIB. Just sell your SHIB. You're probably up on it. Sell your SHIB. Reallocate to something outside the top 100. That's what I would say. So I'm at a 3.
But prepare to lose that. That's 80K, man. So if you really want that 20X, like, you putting it on the table, right? You pushing them chips in. That's why I brought up that. I'm not even trying to be funny. That's why I brought up that picture of the roulette table. Okay. If you want that 20X, you got to push the chips in. But know that the house usually wins.
Yeah. One more thing I want to cover is CPI data that came in today. 3.2% year over year.
Is things getting cheaper?
No, they're getting more expensive.
Damn it.
Yeah. Minus food and energy, you're at 3.8%. A couple tweets here from Charlie Bilello. One, U.S. inflation rate has now been above 3% for 35 consecutive months, the longest period of high inflation since the late 80s and early 90s. Well, we know what happened in the 80s. That was something called stagflation. Will we see the same thing? I don't know.
Big hair in the 80s as well.
Yeah, a lot of
the introduction of neon colors.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Also, there's
really no neon colors.
Hallucinogens as well. Now, also from Charlie Bilello, as far as, hey, okay, CPI numbers are in. What's the Fed going to do, right? Everyone's like, look, when the Fed starts printing money, we go to the moon. I think we're going to the moon anyways. But market expectations, March and May pause. They expect the first rate cut in June, pause in July, cut in September, November, pause in December. So 3 cuts this year. It was at 5, came down to 4. Now it's at 3. We've had the Fed come out and say the economy is doing good. Why would we cut rates? I think you're going to have to see something like banks go under. We know the program that the Fed had, the discount window program, that is done. Will we see banks struggle? I think so. But also you're heading into an election year. And so we're already hearing the president talk about, I want to give every family $400 a month to offset something. Cool. What does that mean? We're printing more money. More money in circulation. You saw what happened in COVID 2020. Yeah.
I thought money's free.
Yeah, it's very free. Yeah, free to print. Yeah. Guys, we hope you enjoy the content. I want to give a big thank you again to Magic Internet Money. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe and ping the notification bell as we release more content, not just a live show. We will be doing a price action video that should be going out later today. Well, will be going out later today. And so there's going to be price action on XRP and maybe some other things as well. So should be an interesting one. And then that's all I got. Rocco, you got anything?
That's it, man.
Rocco?
No, good.
Very quiet today. Oh, XRP shirt today. Shocker.
Magically.
Yeah. Magic Internet stablecoin money. With that being said, Rocco.
Yes.
Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Come back tomorrow. We have Steven Steele, one of the team members from the MAGA meme coin, joining us. We have so much to talk about
crypto. Everybody know we here for entertainment and info. Gonna show you how to get that big dough. So every day stay tapped in for big facts, no capping. With Bitcoin, if you're in, then you win. We divide the pie with no fraction. It's Big Rob, David. I spit the game, but they gave it. Name the coin that's your favorite. I got dry powder, why save it? To the OGs, new beginners. Special shout out to the well members. Buy the dip, sell winners. Ain't really nothing you can tell sinners. Tune in for the latest new flavors. They gonna teach us meme coins. They polarizing like barbecue chicken pizzas. I laugh with a major grin. Laggers, we trade them in. Baddies, they came to sin. And sinners gon' play to win. Screaming, hola, till my bags are flowing over. Hold ya to the moon and to the solar. Won't I? Don't be letting FOMO control ya. It's over when the finger tornado